Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Campfire Stories. This is the Doc Demand Show. I am Doc X, co-host Demand, are here to frighten you. And without further ado, tonight we're going to talk about something a little more sketchier, a little more supernatural than the ordinary topics we have. We talk about aliens, talk about ghosts. We're gonna be talking about a little bit of the paranormal. Gonna get in a little deep tonight. If you haven't already, follow us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel you can watch us on. We've you can subscribe there. Hold on, let me link that to all y'all. Follow us on Twitch, of course. Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, tentatively. Tentatively. But we do release our campfires on Friday. Do we not? Demand? Pretty much on time. When we have them?
Thursdays.
Thursdays. At midnight, right?
Oh, I don't. 11 p.m. 11 a.m.
Is it really 11 a.m.? Okay. All right. All right. So Thursdays at 11 a.m., you can catch each and every one of these podcasts. Welcome each and every one of you. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a little subject called demon possession. That's right. That's right. And a certain psychiatrist, Demand has more information on that person, but I guess the question of the day is how much of demon possession is real? I think everyone wonders that question, right? Demand, I think, as a rational thinking human being, you've got to attribute the majority of demon possessions to what we would consider modern day mental illness. But is it all? Is it all modern day mental illness? Can it all be explained away?
Take enough Xanax and anything.
It actually turns out that even the Roman Catholic Church has stipulations and criteria for sort of casing these scenarios, right?
Yeah, like a
Before
scientific
they'll
method.
allow you. I mean, basically, they actually have people that are trained in psychiatry to diagnose mental illness before they will okay an exorcism, right? And actually, would you like to hear that criteria, Demand? It's pretty interesting, man. So, as far as the Catholic Church is concerned, the criteria for performing an exorcism, it's actually quite specific and designed to ensure that only genuine cases of demonic possession are addressed through this ritual. First and foremost, moral certitude of possession must be established. The appointed exorcist must reach a moral certitude that the symptoms are indeed caused by demonic possession rather than by mental illness or other natural causes. This involves, of course, exclusion of mental and physical illness, a thorough psychological and medical evaluation must be conducted to rule out any natural explanations for the behaviors or symptoms observed. What's up, Taylor? You actually must exhibit signs of possession. Some of these signs can include speaking or understanding languages the individual has never learned, knowledge of hidden or distant things that the person couldn't naturally know, superhuman strength, not commensurate with the person's physical condition, and of course, an aversion to sacred things such as holy water, the crucifix, or the name of Jesus Christ in the case of Christian exorcism. And there are other types, which I'll go into later. The use of diagnostic prayers, exorcists may use specific prayers instead to provoke a reaction from an evil spirit, helping them to confirm possession. Um, Nearly lastly, you'll need also a bishop's permission. Only a priest with the express permission of the local bishop can perform a solemn or major exorcism. This ensures that the ritual is conducted with ecclesiastical oversight and or authority. And of
Only
course,
Catholics.
this is Catholic, yeah. This is 100% Catholic, yeah.
Yep.
This is the what you would consider, well, the majority, right? Like, I think the overwhelming majority of Christians are still probably close to Catholicism. That may
Well,
have changed, but
the main difference between exorcism in Christianity, anyone could do it. Follows Jesus.
yes, yes. But in Catholicism, you have to be qualified,
Yeah.
as in they actually have special schools to teach the idea of exorcism and how to perform them and whether or not there's this distinction. There's actually two classes. In Catholicism, there's minor exorcisms, which are part of liturgical rites like baptism, things that are intended to ward off evil influences, but not necessarily expel a possessing demon. And then, of course, what we all understand as a major exorcism. And these are performed when actual possession is confirmed, involving, of course, a more elaborate ritual, specific prayers, the use of holy water, and other sacraments. All right. So the exorcist must consider the culture and religious background of the person, as interpretations of behavior can vary widely across different cultures. I think that's pretty interesting. Um, you also must have the correct preparation and prudence. The exorcist is required to proceed with caution, strictly following the church's guidelines. This includes not performing the exorcism if there's any doubt about the nature of the affliction. So, at least according to the Catholic Church, they're not allowed to perform these exorcisms just willy nilly, right? They have to
Mm.
basically go through multiple levels of classification to
Not a shadow of a
determine whether,
doubt.
yeah, it has to literally be within a shadow of a doubt. The person's not just schizophrenic or an obvious, mental illness is, the reason. Now, whether you believe in those classifications or not, they do exist within the Catholic Church, right? And actually across many different denominations as well when it comes to religious exorcism. And of course, finally, the exorcist will work with a team, which might include other clergy, mental health professionals. Yes, as you're about to find out, according to demand, other mental health professionals are involved oftentimes in these exorcisms and medical doctors to ensure a comprehensive approach so that disasters and terrible incidents of medical abuse do not occur. Now, in particular, demand,
Hmm.
I believe you have a biography of one such mental health professional, which is the actual um focus of our discussion tonight.
Hmm.
Uh, would you care to give his name, my good sir?
So we're gonna be talking about Dr. Richard Gallagher, Ivy educated, board certified psychiatrist who teaches at the Columbia University Medical College. So he's a well-known individual. Like he's well educated, well knowledged, like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's also written a book. I believe I sent you the. I don't know if you added it to.
Um,
Hold on one second.
That's you.
I'm being demon possessed, man.
Like
Okay,
a sneeze demon.
a sneeze demon. He's hitting me hard. Yeah, Richard Gallagher. I'm trying to find his. Where's his IMDb?
So he was actually, so you know how the Exorcist is based on a real possession, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
he was actually on the team of mental health professionals that were aiding the clergy.
You're kidding me.
Yes,
I
he
did
was part
not
of the
know
team
that
that tried to
actually.
help the woman.
So this dude, it's safe to say is, you know, a well-educated, some might even say skeptical of, at least originally,
Mhm.
of a lot of the paranormal, but became more enticed as time went on with the potential of the paranormal, right?
Right. So, like, fighting Satan's minions wasn't part of Gallagher's needless to say. Uh, he knew about biblical accounts demon possession, but thought they were an ancient culture's attempt to grapple with mental disorders like epilepsy. He proudly calls himself a man of science.
Mm.
Yet today, Gallagher has become something else, the go-to guy for a sprawling network of exorcists in the United States. He says demonic possession is real. He's seen the evidence. Victims suddenly speak perfect Latin, sacred objects flying off shelves, people
No,
displaying
son.
hidden knowledge, or secrets about people that they could not have possibly known.
And this is one of the criteria we talked about earlier, right? At least with the
Correct.
Catholic Church. Like, you have to basically, for the Catholic Church at least, supposedly to enact an exorcism, it's honestly about their ability to assess whether you have any of these supernatural abilities. Somebody that's potentially a schizophrenic, isn't going to qualify. Just because you hear voices or you see things doesn't mean you're necessarily demon possessed. And I like that. I actually like that this guy
Right.
understands the psychiatric evaluation of legitimate mental illnesses, because I think most people, when they talk about demon possession, are just like, dude, every one of these cases is mentally ill. And Dr. Richard
Oh,
Gallagher
are.
actually has, and a lot of them are. And in fact, he states as much in an interview with Esquire magazine. And I could link that to y'all, and we'll put it in the description for those of you on YouTube. There it is. And and he basically says that the overwhelming majority are people who are just like mentally ill. But there is a subset of these who are exhibiting factors far and away and beyond what a normally would be classified as mental illness. What the hell is so funny to man?
I'm not gonna remember. To be honest with
Nah, I'll get it. Don't worry, I'll take
you.
care of
Okay.
it.
Okay. So he goes on to talk, and he's talking about his experience as
Yeah.
part of The Exorcist. It happened, but that was based upon a real movie and based upon a real life incident or event. He goes on to say that there was one woman who was 90 pounds soaking wet, and she threw a Lutheran deacon who was about 200 pounds across the room. He says that's not psychiatry, that's beyond psychiatry.
That's kung fu, dude.
Dude,
He
that's
literally judoed her.
ah,
He judoed that dude. She judoed that dude all across the room, dude.
across the room. So Gallagher calls himself a consultant of demonic possessions. For the past 25 years, he has helped clergy illness and what he calls the real thing. He estimates that he's seen more cases of possession than any other physician in the world. But he goes on to say, "Whenever I need help, I call on." Oh, sorry. Whenever I need help, I call on him, says Reverend Gary Thomas, one of the most famous exorcists in the United States. The movie The Rite was based upon his work. I think Gary Thomas was Pope's personal exorcist,
Ooh,
I believe, if I was correct.
the Pope's
Um,
personal ex. That's
yeah,
who you want to be, dude.
dude,
That's a
right?
position of prestige, brother. Yeah.
If the Pope gets, possessed, you have to exercise. He's so respected in the field, Thomas says, that he's not like most therapists who are either atheists or agnostics. Gallagher is a big man. He's 6'5". Shout out.
Here's the
Who
man sauce.
he's my size actually. Who once played semi-pro basketball in Europe. He has a gruff, no-nonsense demeanor. When he talks about possession, he sounds if he's describing sounds like he's describing the growth of algae. His tone is dry,
Mm.
clinical, and matter of fact. Possession, he says, is rare, but
That's kind of like chilling, man. If we could step back just for a second, man. You got a guy that's like raised in education. Now he does state later on, in the interview that we linked as an educated professional, right? What's going on, Amby? As a professional, he basically, you know, talks about having being raised sort of Roman Catholic, but is growing up as a skeptic, right? This is not someone who was, part of, the religious right wing or anything like that. This guy is 100% like a skeptic about the paranormal. Yet, with all of his dealings in the mental health profession, he became a believer in demon possession. And I think that's really fascinating. I don't know if you're going to talk about it next, man, but there any particular stories that you found where he
um,
talks about his experiences?
we could talk about the Queen of Satan.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's talk about the Queen of Satan. Please,
All right,
please,
and talk about.
please.
So you might
Tell me
ask
the story.
yourself, how does a man of science get pulled into the world of demonic possession? His
I
short
do.
answer: he met a Queen of Satan.
Abby, the Queen of Satan. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
kidding, Abby. I'm kidding. Evidently, the real Queen of Satan, if I'm not mistaken, potentially somebody that was involved in what I assume to be satanic rituals, a cult. Who
Well,
was this person?
let me introduce her. Now,
Mm-hmm.
she was a middle-aged
Please.
woman who wore flowing dark clothes and black eyeshadow. She could be described as my ex. She, she, she could be charming and engaging. She was also part of a satanic cult. She called
Oh my
herself the
God.
queen of the cult, but Gallagher would refer to her as Julia, pseudonym he gave her. The woman had approached
Julia.
her local priest, convinced she was being attacked by a demon. The priest referred her to an exorcist who reached out to Gallagher for a mental health. Why, though, would a devil worshipper want to be free of the devil? She was conflicted, Gallagher says. There was a part of her that wanted to be possession. She ended up relieving Gallagher of his doubts. It was one of the first cases he ever took. Changed. Gallagher helped assemble an exorcism team, like the A team that met Julia in the chapel of a house. Objects would fly off the shelves around her. She somehow knew personal details about Gallagher's life, how his mother had died of ovarian cancer, the fact that two cats in his house went berserk fighting each other the night before one of her sessions. Julia found a way to reach him, even when she wasn't with him, he says. He was talking on the phone with Julia's priest one night. When both men heard one of the demonic voices that came from Francis, even though she was nowhere near a phone and thousands of miles away. He says he was never afraid, though. It's creepy, he says, but I believe I'm on the winning side. That was one of his first cases of
So this
Satan.
So this broad, knew a story about his two cats fighting, like in the middle of the night, the night
And
before.
the mother died of ovarian cancer. The fact that his two
The-
cats went berserk the night before.
So it was like serious information and mundane information, right? It's like, so it's interesting you should say that because to me it seems fascinating that to prove that I knew things about you. I would say, well, I know about your mother and how she passed away. You'd say to me, of course, well, it's something anybody could have looked up and found like on the internet. And then
Obituary.
you follow up with, yeah, yeah. And then you follow up, say, hey, sorry last night that your two cats were like fighting and screeching and like they
That
just
would
got
terrify
that's
me.
That has to chill you to the bone. More than the thing about your mother. That has to chill you to the bone knowing that like an entity that possibly was watching. Like, but like you said, I mean, apparently this man seems to be a believer in a higher authority, and he didn't seem to be worried about it. But meeting the Queen of the Damned, or what is it, Queen of Satan, or
AKA
whatever it
Julia.
was, Julia, which is it's not her real name, right? Like you said, he used a pseudonym.
Pseudonym, yeah, he gave.
Dude, that's just
She was still like
it's
she sought out help. Art.
because you said she felt conflicted. I wonder if she wasn't. I mean, assuming that all of this is real, I wonder if 100% of her wasn't conflicted, but the other part of her was like not her. You know what I'm saying?
It was like she was possessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if she was truly possessed, then like the real Julia was probably conflicted in it.
Seeking help.
And then, yeah, like trying to get absolution from or freedom from this life. I mean, that just seems so crazy. Does it say what did he ever say what happened to her? Like or what the
Let's see.
I'm looking in my notes as well.
I don't think he ever says.
Yeah, I couldn't I'm looking now.
There's a person, Stephen Duvall, who's a neurologist and professor at Yale, tries to disprove him.
Okay.
Professor goes, he wrote a lengthy blog dissecting Gallagher's experience with Julia. It could be read as a taken down of exorcism everywhere, correct? He says Julia probably performed a cold reading. I don't know how
Yeah.
you cold read cats.
Yeah. Right. Right.
A patient might memorize Latin phrases to throw out during sessions.
Of course.
Novella wrote. Were they having a conversation in Latin? Did they understand Latin spoken to them, or did they just Latin? Now, Gallagher is a man of science. So if someone just spoke Latin, he would reply to them in Latin, try to get them to understand what you're saying, and try to have a conversation in Latin. Truly understand. I don't think Gallagher was like, oh, she speaks Latin. Duh.
Yeah. Yeah. Because human beings are capable of all kinds of crazy and wild things, you know, and even for attention, like you said, you could learn a few phrases. You could learn more than a few. You could learn, you know, quite a bit if you practiced it long enough. I mean, you might even be able to be fluent if you're a genius, because there's all kinds of people who are polyglots that can learn, you know, languages in a very, very short amount of time. I mean, obviously, the more you know another language, more than one language, though, any polyglot will tell you that you learn the others much easier. Something about the pathways in your brain. So, like, I understand the skepticism, nonetheless. Um, According to this article, Julia seemed to display inhuman, if even telekinetic, abilities throughout each of these rites or exorcism performances. For example, it was customary for Julia's limbs to be restrained during each rite of exorcism, and yet on a few occasions she escaped the grasp of several fully grown men while an array of items, books, wall hangings, and other trinkets flew about the room of their own will. And if that wasn't chilling enough, at least in one instance, Julia did the impossible. Even in spite of the will of man and the laws of physics, Julia actually managed to levitate from the ground right before Dr. Gallagher's eyes. I mean, flying would basically, dude, everybody wants
Bad
to
news.
fly. I didn't realize I was gonna have to be demon possessed to do it. What happened to man?
So exorcism is not some kind of magic thing. Normally, a person has to make their serious.
Yeah, you have to want to
You have to
be,
want to be safe.
yeah, or change.
Unfortunately,
That makes
Doc,
sense.
about a year after, dropped out because Gallagher says he heard Julia's voice on the phone again. This time she had called to tell him she was dying of.
No. Julia died. Does it say when?
Says he never heard from her again.
Dang. Dang,
Yep.
dude.
It's not all bells and whistles here at the Doc and Man Show. Sometimes you get sad.
Dude, I can't even make any jokes about that. That's tragic, dude. That is absolutely tragic. Got any more stories? Before you do that, I can give you a concise overview. I mentioned before, but there are other exorcism practices in various religions beyond Christianity, being that, a good portion of Americans are of at least Christian faith early on, right? Even if those who are not Christians today probably were raised in some sort of, general um, Christian-esque doctrine at home. There's actually exorcisms performed by Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, shamanism, African traditional religions, and of course, Pentecostal and charismatic Christianity as well. Um, Islamic exorcism is known as ruqya. The Islamic practice of exorcism involves recitations from the Quran, especially Surah Al Falaq and Al Nas, to expel jinn or evil spirits. Healers, known as Raki, might engage in dialogue with the jinn, asking for its identity and reason for possession, and then commanding it to leave in the name of Allah. Judaism, the traditional methods, Jewish exorcisms historically involved rabbis using sacred texts like the Psalms or the name of God to expel spirits. The Talmud mentions several exorcism practices, though these are less common today. Modern Jewish exorcisms are rare but can involve prayer and the use of religious symbols. In Hinduism, they use mantra and ritual. Exorcism in Hinduism might involve chanting mantras, using specific rituals like homa or fire ceremonies, and employing protective like amulets or talismans. Priests might invoke deities to counteract these malevolent spirits. In Buddhism, they use Vajra dance and meditation. In Tibetan Buddhism, exorcism rituals include uh, the like of Vajra dance to expel evil spirits. Monks may also use meditation, chanting, protective mantras, calling upon Buddha or Bodhisattvas, or for instance, I said that wrong. Bodhisattvas. Close enough. In shamanism, the shamanistic practices might engage in trance states, using drums, singing, or even physical confrontations
Herb.
to the evil spirits. I mean, potentially, often with the community participation to restore balance and expel these malevolent entities. African traditional religions include spiritual healers. Exorcisms can involve diviners or healers who use herbs, dance, music, and direct communications with the spirits to diagnose and resolve issues of possessions. Practices, of course, varied widely by tribe and religion, and of course, in Pentecostalism, charismatic Christianity, sort of the other side, or what we would call evangelicals. That's actually what I was raised as. Deliverance ministries, while part of Christian practices, these are of note for their frequency and public nature in some areas, involving prayers, laying on hands, and sometimes dramatic confrontations with and against the spirit in the name of Jesus Christ.
I have a story
So,
for you, Doc.
Man, yeah. Since we're talking about normal exorcism, or should I say, one of the most common.
Maybe depressed? Or?
I mean, I think I gave everybody a slight reprieve, so yeah, bring on
Oh,
the
right.
depression.
We're gonna talk about. I don't know if you heard this, but it's the tragic case of the real Emily Rose.
The tragic case of the real Emily Rose, as opposed to the one in the movie theater.
Indubitably, my dear.
Excellent, excellent.
If you want to know why so many scientists and doctors like Lieberman cautious about legitimizing demonic possessions, consider one name: Annalise Gale. Mikhail was a victim in one of the most notorious cases of contemporary exorcism. If you have the stomach for it, go online and listen to the audio tape, watch videos of her exorcism. Images and sounds will burn themselves into your brain. Sounds like somebody dropped a microphone in. Michael was a
Damn.
or Mikkel was a German Catholic woman who died of starvation in 1976 after 7 exorcisms were performed over a period of 9 months.
They just starved her to death.
They starved her. Died of malnutrition. She was diagnosed with epilepsy. Believed she was possessed. So did her devout Roman Catholic parents, reported displaying some of the classic signs of possession: abnormal strength, aversion to objects, speaking. Time of her death. But
Oh, that's horrific, dude.
authorities later determined that it was Mikhail's parents and the 2 priests responsible for it. German authorities put them on trial for murder, found guilty, negligent homicide.
The justice system wins again for this particular. That's good. Simple psyche. Yeah, dude. That's crazy, dude. They murdered that girl.
Straight up. So on July the 1st in 1976, Mikhail died in her home. The autopsy report stated that the cause of death is malnutrition and dehydration, resulting from almost a year in a state of near starvation while the rites of exorcism were performed.
They
Only
couldn't
weighed
even like
6
feed her.
pounds.
They didn't even like feed her any food, dude, while they were exercising her.
Well, fasting.
how- You're supposed to fast, though, not fasting the demonic possession person.
Hold on. But the priests stated that end of her life, Mikhail began.
Oh. So she actually starved herself then. So paternity.
Supposedly.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about demon possession and the psychological ramifications, and a honored psychiatrist named Dr. Richard Gallagher, who through his time and observations became to believe in demon possession as a real phenomenon, not just as scientific psychiatry. But as we were just saying, and Demand points out, there's the terrible case is Emily Rose.
That's her
where,
movie
you
name,
know-
but her real name is Annalise Mikhail, if you real
Oh,
person.
Annalise
model.
McHale. Yeah, who evidently was starved to death. I mean, I initially blamed the priests, and they had some culpability, obviously, because they got convicted, you might imagine. So, but evidently she was also refusing food, so maybe it became more and more difficult, to feed her. But you gotta wonder how much of that was her and how much of that was them, right? Like, I wonder.
I don't think priests would deny you food.
No, That doesn't seem to be. I mean, what are you doing trying to starve the demon? The demon is possessing a human body. Your human body needs food and water. Like, I don't really understand the
We
logic, and maybe we
we
don't.
starve the demon out in the name of Jesus.
And she just dies, and then they're all like, "We
Well,
pronounce the patient cured."
the demon's no longer in the host. I mean,
I mean, technically, they're right. Oh, that's disgusting. Um, it is important to note, of course, that Dr. Richard Gallagher, not only was a psychiatrist, is also part of the International Association of Exorcists, or AIE, as it's known by its Italian acronym, which is a Roman Catholic organization founded by 1994 by six different priests, including a well known exorcist, Father Gabriel Amorth, and Father Jeremy Davies. The purpose of this association is to provide training and support for priests who perform exorcism, aiming to increase awareness about demonic possession and offer guidance on how to deal with these cases, assumedly, as Demand said, to avoid cases like Emily Rose, in which the physical body was harmed and a spiritual exorcism actually ended up with dire consequences. Membership in this exclusive association is basically primarily reserved for Catholic priests authorized by their bishops to perform exorcisms, although it also includes members from Anglican and Orthodox traditions. Um, it is exclusive, but Dr. Gallagher was actually um, a consultant, I would say, and a go-to scientist on a lot of these potential demon possession cases. And if I'm not mistaken, and Demand can correct me if I'm wrong, it seems as if he was the one sort of responsible for deciding if this was a legitimate case of mental illness or aiding in that decision, right?
right.
Or supernatural possession. And as we stated before, there was a whole list of criteria. And I think it was his job, if again, if I'm not mistaken, to sort of, help delineate between, well, this person is just a schizophrenic, or maybe they suffer from autism, like severe levels of mental health issues, or, are they actually possessed? As we stated before, he came to the conclusion the majority are not demon possessed. Like demon possession is overwhelmingly rare. I know in the Esquire article, he goes on to state that the idea that you could just go to sleep tonight and be demon possessed would be highly unlikely.
Correct.
The people that seem to succumb to sort of this demon possession appear to be people that open themselves up to higher and increasing levels of occultism, things that, and there's no delineation between even agnostics. Anyone that turns towards what he would consider evil and self serving thinking could potentially open themselves up to sort of this demonic presence of possession. So interesting. I thought that was really interesting to
So,
read.
in my experience with demonic possession, and I do have experience, believe it or not, fighting demons.
Are you
Um,
Constantine? Do
no,
you do the thing with the wrists?
oh,
You don't
that
have the
would be cool.
tattoo, dude.
I don't.
I'm sure it's not as
It's
glorious. I'm sure it's not as glorious.
slow burning. Don't
Mm-hmm.
You don't fully succumb to it over multiple nights, even over a year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a slow burn. The demon only has power over your fear and
Right.
and they want to ensure that you keep eating them with that fear, and that makes
Mm-hmm.
them stronger. But off the rip, they can't do anything. They're just magicians that make funny lights and funny sounds. They can't physically harm you until they grow more powerful. Allow them to grow more powerful.
That's actually what Dr. Gallagher says, again in this interview. I'll link it right now,
I fought
and
demons,
again
man.
in the dude, according to him, he says something to the effect of the same thing that you said, is that, generally they're liars, right? That they'll try to their main idea is to try to confuse and to make up um whatever these entities are, whether you want to call them demons or whatever. These things that inhabit people want to deceive, like deception and survivability, like parasites, right?
Correct.
um they'll pretend to be dead relatives. They'll state, a long time ago, it was in early Christianity, it was believed they pretended to be gods, right? Like people believed in Zeus. People that were demon possessed would say that they were the spirit of Zeus or something of that nature. Anything to try to confuse, mislead people into understanding what was really happening. And so, like, even if you go into the Bible, there is a demon possession specifically in which the disciples of Jesus try to cast the demon out, and it basically beats the ever living crap out of them, and it's like runs them out, like tears their clothes up, and or the dude that was demon possessed, and Jesus basically states like this is not the kind of demon that you can just cast out. You have to like get rid of it through fasting and prayer, like Demen was saying, like a slow burn, right? Wasn't something you just say leave this person be and it was going to leave. And that's something that Dr. Galler states too, is that he's seen possessions where the person was exorcised and the demon left in one session. Sometimes it would take a few weeks or even months, and even others, people would never be delivered from that demon, which unfortunately it looks like the case of Julia was potentially one of those cases. We don't ever know what happened to her because it's not necessarily stated in any of our research, but you know, nothing was a sure thing. Like even exorcism wasn't 100%, right? Or am I wrong?
Correct. Well, the thing is, the person has to truly want. Can't have one hand in sin and ask for God with the other hand, right? Can't have
Mhm.
blessings and
Mhm.
sin. It's the same thing with demonic possession. You can't enjoy the demonic possession. Like, I kind of don't want it. You have to fully don't want it. You have to fully
Right.
break those. Chains.
Well, that makes perfect sense. You want to really turn away from old things past to
Well,
try to.
it's comfortable to you. What you've known. It's what you had your whole life. That's what demons do. They make you feel comfortable in its own possession.
Mm-hmm.
And they lie.
Nah, dude.
They convince you that you.
Dude, can you imagine? Like you throw holy water and it just like starts searing like hydrochloric acid on somebody's skin. That's crazy, dude. I wonder what is. We're gonna have to do some more research at
I don't
some
think
point, Tom.
I don't think that actually happens.
You don't think that happens?
No, I think they just freak
One
out.
of the, one of the, I started to say one of the Catholic priests was basically saying they have an aversion to
Aversion. That doesn't
whatever.
mean it sears their skin.
Yeah, I'm just saying though. What if
That would
it
be pretty.
did?
That'd be pretty.
That'd be gnarly. I don't think I could deal with it. I'd be like, nah. I don't want to sear. I'd be checking the bottle. It's like, this is really holy water.
Right? It's
This is
actually hydrochloric
actually
acid.
acid. Yeah. It's like this holy water burned the shit out of them. It's just like, dude, why was it in a beaker?
Or was in a plastic tub with like a hazard sign on it.
Dude, I'm just saying.
Did I show
Doctor,
you the story about like the burning of like the ancient comic to like talisman that his mom had?
no.
Well,
So give us a quick background and then the story. Yeah.
I think we should say the story for another time, but just a little teaser.
Yeah.
John Shed and I fought off a demon. We originally saw it. Well, I saw it at first. I saw like this face in his mother's doorway, and like the door, and the face just like recede into the darkness, and I felt unbelievable terror. Or so I'd rather have a tornado strike me than to see that face again. And as you know, I'm terrified of tornadoes.
You are.
And that's all. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I'll save that story for next time. That story goes in. All I gotta say is we tried to burn it, and the paper didn't burn.
Nah, man. I'd be out. I'd be out.
You'd roll out.
We'll end on this fact. For those of you fascinated by this topic, there's plenty more to be learned here. But today, of course, exorcisms are on the rise worldwide, including in the United States, with the Catholic Church reportedly sending their new exorcists to an institute that actually trains spiritual warriors. Catholic leaders say there are more exorcists in the U.S. now than any time in recent memory. And in the case of Father Amorth, who started, of course, the International Association of Exorcists. R.I.P. By the way, he passed away in 2016.
Rip.
He's laid part of the blame on pop culture and our potential willingness to allow these types of demonic entities into our lives. So,
It makes sense.
whether you believe it or not, man, they say it's out there. And ladies and gentlemen, that's Campfire Stories for this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to talk more about this subject going forward. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, whichever button it is you're watching, supporting us. We appreciate each and every single one of you. We're going to be doing more of this kind of content, of course, every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, tentatively.